relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching. You can be watching. We're in the studio again.
Yeah. And if you want to watch, you sign up to our Patreon to do that.
I like to watch.
Patreon.com/everyone relax. Let's get the plugs out of the way.
Yeah, why not? Welcome to the show. You can, because I mean, well, you want to know straight away where you can find the video content if you want to watch the video content.
Do you think
it's no
someone
good waiting until the end and go, oh, now I can watch it?
Do you think anyone though was just listening to that intro and they were like, I have to, like straight away, I have to see this. That intro was so hot. I have to see.
They sound hot today. Yeah. They sound, it feels like Charlie's rocking. See, there's periods where we've spoken about this before, but where your beard will be all kind of the same length. And then there are periods of your, you know, particularly the last couple of years where your mustache forward.
I'm mustache all the way at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. You're definitely prominently mustached at the moment, but you've still got like your 5 o'clock shadow in the background.
I'm not confident enough to go solo mustache.
No.
I think if I had to have like
you're out the front of the group, but you've still got the group there, like doing backup vocals.
Who's that actor? He was in like The Walking Dead. He played like the comedian in Watchmen. What's that actor? Do you know who I'm talking about? Amy?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh,
that's my style icon for, because he has a mustache, but he tempers the mustache with a bit of stubble, because otherwise it's a real statement. It's
I find his name so hard to remember.
And his
Jeffrey,
face and his career.
No, because every time I see him in something, I'm like, oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, who is he?
Yeah.
And that name doesn't sound like
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Sounds like a car dealership.
Or like a chain of cinemas from the 80s. Where'd you go and see this? Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
You know, 2 local cinemas that amalgamated.
Jeffrey's the nickname. It's just the Dean Morgans.
Yeah. He's the son of the Dean Morgans.
Yeah,
Jeffrey didn't want to go into the business, wanted to be on the screen, not working a cinema.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Henry Cavill when he did Mission Impossible. They're my two. That's the kind of, because that's, I think these days, if you're going to have a unless you're a full barista hipster, like I'm owning this. I want to look like Patches O'Houlihan, like a World War II pilot or something like that. But I don't have the style or the haircut to back up that kind of mo. I want it to look like I haven't prepared, even though I have prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're doing a good job of that. I think
thanks,
you've
mate.
Absolutely nailed. And I think this is absolutely the right look for you, because on first glance, it doesn't look like you're trying as hard as you clearly are. Like once you start to unpick it a little, you're like, there's a lot of style going on here. Yeah. And Charlie's in good nick. He's dressing to accentuate that. You know, he's either got ankle socks or no, like I saw his ankles.
Japanese, it's the tapered Japanese tracksuit pants.
Yeah, I mean, once you start to actually, I'm like, look at my little old friend. He's all grown up. He's making style choices.
I am all about and I have no idea about fashion, but
well, you didn't, but I feel like you've stumbled into something.
Uniqlo, and this is like a free plug, Uniqlo and Muji.
Get on board, Uniqlo and
Muji. And I've just discovered Muji when I was overseas.
I've never even heard of Muji.
Mate, it's amazing. You go into a Muji store and it's like, what is this? It's like a Bed Bath and Beyond, but they sell clothes, and the clothes are all like oversized, and all the staff are super cool Japanese.
I do need to point out this is not an ad for Muji, because this feels now like, am I in an ad for Muji? Did I agree to a Muji sponsorship? Am I even saying it right? Muji?
I don't know. I literally discovered the store like 5 days ago.
How is it spelled?
Muji. Muji.
Muji.
I think that's right.
Probably.
Amy, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. There's one about 2 minutes away from the studio here.
So have they just like popped up all of a sudden and old men here have only started noticing it, or like?
I definitely only noticed it in the last year or so.
Okay. I said last year or so. So we are a bit behind the times. But have you been inside one?
I have. I went right after our last recording, actually.
Mate, the Muji factor. Get on board Muji. Buy stock in Muji. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they do seem like a Muji company.
I think it's also sustainable as well. It's like...
You said sustainable with air quotations because
every big industry.
Just for me?
No.
Like, that's for the video. Remember, we're being filmed as you do your little... There goes our Muji sponsorship that we were going to get.
No, they are sustainable. The people at Muji have told me it is all. I think they're made out of like bamboo or something, which is meant to be more recyclable or sustainable.
I like
or
the
something.
feel of bamboo, like clothes and stuff. I've worn some bamboo.
This is a Muji t-shirt.
Is that bamboo?
I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe.
I've got some bamboo underwear, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Like your balls have been caned.
It's like made out of
Stiff
they
bamboo.
haven't
It's not soft.
haven't
Processed
refined
bamboo.
it in any way. It's literally straight out of the garden into the underpants.
I get shocking splinters in my
Oh
scrot.
my God.
It
Like,
is-
on the upside, a lot more oral sex from pandas. So, you know.
Well, that is the thing about bamboo, I believe, is it's like a more like, you know, it's
More breathable.
didn't Planet of the Apes teach us that like many apes strong, like they by holding sticks. I think that's the thing about bamboo is it is both lightweight but also incredibly strong. So that's what you need in your underwear, lightweight but
Incredibly strong.
incredibly strong.
How long? We've probably talked about this before, but how long? How long do you think you hold on to a pair of underwear before you like move? Like, are you good at moving it out of the underwear?
I'm that Seinfeld joke
Uh-huh.
where literally until it falls off my body.
Yeah.
To the point where I'd say that I don't even throw underwear out. Gemma throws it out. She will make an executive decision and just like toss stuff
Just
out.
one day it's gone.
It's gone.
And she'll just assume you'll never miss it.
Yeah, and she's
And
right.
then one day, yeah, you're not crying in the corner going, "Where are you?"
It's the magic pudding. Open the drawer. And it's like, wow, Gemma, I'm like, oh, this is a magic drawer. There's new underwear in here all the time. She's like, no, I threw the old stuff out. Because I guess, I mean, no one ever sees it, right? Like, I'm not parading, you know, I'm not like single. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not parading around in it. So it's the least seen clothing I own. So who cares if there's a few holes in it?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I change mine over very regularly. I gotta say, I quite like a little underwear freshen up. I'll go and buy myself a whole bunch of new ones, and then I'll get rid of the same amount of like. There's a real sort of like I might go and get myself like a 5-pack and a 3-pack is normally the way that I
Hang on.
will.
From Target or something. No, are we getting good undies?
No, good undies.
Okay, right.
So like,
Can you get a 3-pack of good undies?
Yeah, you can get a 3-pack, normally of like a twist on the like. So the 5-pack essentially is what I'm looking at my standard day to day
undies.
and then there's like maybe something a little fancier on the band or something
Boxer
that I've put
briefs
into the.
or bikini bottoms. What are they called? The little ones?
I don't know. They're not open. Like they're the ones that are in between.
Boxers and briefs.
Yeah,
they're like shorts.
Yeah,
Like
kind
skin tight
of.
shorts.
Skin tight shorts.
Yeah, they're the ones I like best. Too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
breathable.
Made out of bamboo. Cane your balls. Muji.
Okay,
They sell underwear. They do sell underwear at Muji.
They do.
Yeah, they sell everything.
So what? Yeah, I was going to say, what do they sell at Muji?
So,
Again, this is not an ad for Muji.
Well, that's why it's so confusing is because when I walked past it, I was like, oh, it's homewares because there's like literally Tupperware and back scrubbers and looks like Bed Bath & Beyond. But then you go in and it's men's and women's clothing, but it's that cool, like Japanese fashion is very much like, I don't know, it's like, you know, you see a film where it's like, in the future, like everyone wears like robes and stuff. It's kind of got this like oversized kind of, I don't know. It just looks and feels different to anything.
It's
else.
very hip and modern,
Right?
And like I think that whole style. I think Japan. I mean, Japan is one of those countries that it rarely ever goes out of fashion. They always feel like they're on the cutting edge of experimentations around music and art and electronics and like life in general. Like a lot of the time, you like things. When trends come through, they can be, Japanese led, right? But it does feel like at the moment that a lot of the hip young culture in the world, I think we've talked about this before, but it feels like to me anyway, when I look at it from the outside, not a young person in it, so much of it feels Asian led, like, inspired by like those hipper, younger, emerging styles and emerging.
Well, Uniqlo, I went to, before I bought all this stuff at Muji, I went to Uniqlo to get some t-shirts and it was packed. And it wasn't just like, it was very mixed demographic. And they had just released a range, and I'm going to muck this up, but a very famous graphic artist, Japanese graphic artist, a range of T-shirts. And there was also some Basquiat and Warhol prints as well they'd licensed. And they were not moving at all, but all these kind of like manga or anime inspired kind of prints were flying off the shelf. In fact, this guy, I saw these awesome like cargo pants on a mannequin. I couldn't find them anywhere. And then I saw another, like a young Japanese guy, and he was looking at them as well. And we were eyeing each other off because we knew like, well, they're not on the shelf, so they must be down to low in stock. And so we both raced over to the attendant, and he was about 20 years younger than me as well. And we're like, are there any of those pants left? And she said, I think we have one or two out the back. And I was looking at him, and he was looking at me, and I'm like, is he a small or a medium? Because I'm a medium across the board. And she came back and she said, we only have a small. And I was like, God damn it. I was going to have to go get an eating disorder to make those pants fit.
This is the problem with this podcast, right? Like, there's no market for 250, late 40s, 50-year-old men sitting around talking about like how much they love emerging fashions. We should be like leaning into the opposite of that, where we're complaining about, oh, why don't bloody kids wear stussy like when we were growing up?
Hard yakka.
Why can't I go into a hard yakka shop and get some bloody hard yakka gear?
Well, I do actually. I must admit, I have bought some hard yakka.
I was going to say, that was, as soon as I was saying it, I was like, yeah, I would like some hard yakka. Yeah.
It's funny. Speaking of being middle-aged, I now qualify for. I had a free middle-age health check because I'm suddenly I'm in the kill zone.
Yeah,
there's so many things that can kill me now.
Mate, wait until you're 50.
Well,
there's a whole new draw though. Like, I mean, because I've been through what you've been through. And I want to talk about it with you, don't get me wrong. Nothing that I love more at this age than talking about going to the doctor, medical problems. But when you get to 50, you think you're like, oh, yeah, I get this. Yeah. This is what we do each year. We check my blood pressure.
It gets worse.
Blah, blah, blah. 50. Oh, at 50, they're like, oh, there's a whole new draw. What else do you want to do?
Oh, really?
Yeah. How do you feel about shingles?
I thought, I've had shingles. I had shingles as a 16-year-old.
Shut up.
Can I tell you, we were on a camping trip.
Not chicken pox.
No, because I had chicken pox. I had the old man chicken pox as a 16-year-old.
As a 16-year-old.
On a camping trip with a bunch of mates and a bunch of girls.
Oh, my God.
So there is nothing that turns a girl on more than you emerging from your tent, covered in pussy little like spots all over your body. I had no idea what was wrong with me. I just remember we'd been camping for a couple of days. I got out of my tent. And I went down to the river where everyone was swimming, and I took my shirt off, and all my friends were like, oh, gross, what is that? And I had these like pussy spots all over my body, and I had to go to the doctor, and they said, oh, yeah, you've got shingles. And my mother said, isn't that like an old person's disease? And it's like, yes, but sometimes it can happen to a teenager. And it took like 3 weeks to treat. Amy's nodding. Have you had shingles as well? You a fellow teenage shingler?
My older brother had shingles in like 2020.
Right. Really? How old's your brother?
Mid-COVID era. He's 3 years older than me. So at the time he would have been like 27, 28.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the cool kids. Like the younger you get it, the cooler you are, I believe. That was the medical opinion, is the earlier you get it.
Oh, was it?
No.
Because the medical opinion from my doctor was you don't want to get this. And here's a vaccine that you can now take to prevent you from getting this.
It was gross and disgusting. And I think there was a chance I could get it again.
Yeah.
I believe.
There's a vaccine that you can get at 50.
Yeah, right.
I recommend it. Okay, so tell me about you. So you went to your checkup.
So my GP said you qualify now for middle-age health check. Yep. Stop shopping at Muji. You're a joke.
A middle-age life check. It's the building next door.
Midlife crisis check.
So you go in and you get your health check, and then they go in and assess your fashion, see if it's appropriate, your life choices, where you're at in general. So we're just going to, 2 meetings. The second one you're going to find a lot harder than the first, I reckon.
So they did everything, and I've talked about like where I live. My pharmacist is this young, attractive female, and so it's made it really hard whenever I need to get like hemorrhoid cream or anything like that. I just feel so bad about going in there with my old man problems. But my GP is also like a young, attractive woman, and I know it shouldn't. She's a doctor and she's a professional, but for some reason, me bringing in my middle-age ailments just makes me so much more embarrassed and self-conscious. So she was running me through the battery of tests I was going to have, the blood test, but then also the fecal tests. And I was like, what? The what? She's like, yeah. And she said, look, no one likes talking about it, but you're gonna have to take a sample of your feces 3 days in a row, and then ship that off to the pathologist to get tested. And I was like, but like how? How do I catch it? And she was like, well, with the Tupperware container that you can throw out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so that.
Firstly, the word "can" there is not necessary. That you will throw out a
Oh,
container.
no.
That you will throw out.
I hope you're enjoying the lunch I bought in for you today, Will.
I'm never eating anything that's prepared at your house ever again.
But you have to do it in sequential days, right? So they need a 3-day
you don't need to.
window to analyze. And I think it was like day one, I'd got the sample, and then I had completely forgotten, like day 2, I was on my way to the bathroom to make a delivery. And I was like, oh God, but I didn't have time to get the Tupperware container. No. And I didn't know if this was going to be the only delivery for the day.
Exactly.
So I was in the bathroom going what can I grab to catch?
Because, I mean, you've got to get it in this window because what 3 days in a row are you ever going to poo again?
Oh, no, but I didn't want to have to start again.
I mean, it's the easiest thing to start again.
But if I inconvenience myself in this one moment, then there's only one more day of horrendous poo catching to go through. If I miss this window, I have to start again. It's another 3 days.
Yeah.
So I weighed up. Do I just grab
risk versus reward?
Yeah. So what I did is I actually... There was a old, I guess like Gemma had got a makeup delivery. There was an old cardboard box.
Great.
And so I managed to rip the lid off that and get that in place. But it
You're
was
just like a little fecal MacGyver.
It was disgusting. It was like
disgusting.
The worst pizza delivery you've ever seen in your life.
It would put me off pizza.
It put me
makeup.
And cardboard and bathrooms and life.
And myself.
So I managed to get all that done, the blood work done. And then I went in for my, they said, look, if you don't hear from us, that's all good.
Yeah.
And so I heard from them and I'm like, oh that's not good.
They should say, if you don't hear from us, that's all good. If you do hear from us, that doesn't mean it's all bad.
No, well, they did say it is a non-urgent follow-up consultation. So she was going through my blood work.
We've been looking at your samples, and the second one has cardboard right through it and makeup.
And it appears, I don't know how they knew this, but it looked like a bite had been taken out of it. At the time of doing this, I wasn't drinking and I was being very healthy and stuff. So all the blood work was very good. No bowel cancer. All that was very good.
Only problem with that is, that's now in the record as your sort of
that's
base
your baseline.
Level.
Yeah.
So if you're even slightly off that next time you go back, it's going to feel like your health's very much deteriorating.
I have a bigger problem or a bigger fish to fry because she said, look, all that is normal.
Steam that fish for a start. That's one of the problems.
Cholesterol.
Yeah.
The cholesterol is fine.
Yep.
But she said, there is a enzyme in your liver. And she's gone, if that was like 2 marks higher, I'd say you had liver disease.
Oh.
Oh, no, kidney disease.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, oh. And she said, ordinarily, that's the results would get from someone who is incredibly obese or blah, blah, blah. And so I said, what is the enzyme? And she said, it's creatinine.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like...
It's they sometimes have that in... protein powders and stuff, right? Yeah.
And so I've had this issue before where about 5 years ago when I was training really hard, I thought I was anemic because I was really pale and weak and I felt really ill. And I went through a whole battery of tests with the doctor and she couldn't find what was wrong. And then what we realized was I was taking this supplement, this protein powder that had creatine in it, which... Creatine is bodybuilders use it because it retains fluid around the muscles. So aesthetically, it gives you a bigger look. So bodybuilders before competitions will take lots of creatine.
Yep.
But the way it works is you have to drink about 8 liters of water while you're taking it because you need to flush the enzyme through your body. Otherwise, it cakes up over your kidneys and poisons you. So I don't take that supplement anymore. And I'd been going to the local hippie shop and getting the all natural plant protein, pea protein, double checking that it had no, it's literally just derived from a plant. There's not even any sweeteners or anything added. So I said to her, do you think it could be the protein powder? And she said, well, how much are you having? And I said, well, I don't really take protein powders anymore. Like after a workout, I don't really have protein powders, but I do use it as a kind of cooking additive. So if I'm having a smoothie or something, I might put in a scoop of protein. And she's like, and how often are you doing that? I said, I probably have about 6 smoothies a week. And she's like, I think you're having too much protein on top of also eating.
Yeah, because you're not
protein-rich
protein
food.
deficient in other ways.
No, that's
so
right.
you're putting protein on top of
protein.
Yeah.
Which, like, according to every, like,
podcast you've listened to by Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly.
Every
it's like
Instagram
protein,
reel you flick through.
Yeah, it's the building blocks of life. And it's like you need more protein.
According to the Liver
eat
King,
more protein.
my personal nutritionist.
So she's told me to quit protein.
Yeah.
Well, not
no
organic protein. Like from
unnecessary.
A fish or
whatever. Just the protein that you're getting.
Yeah.
From your everyday living.
Yeah. But then the funny thing was, I talked to my brother about it, who's he's 14 years older than me, and he said that's an issue for him as well.
Genetics.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if maybe because that's not that it will necessarily go down that path, but that's my father. Part of the thing that led to his illness was it was like it was his intestines and the way his body was processed and broke down toxins and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh shit, like, is that the path I'm heading on? Like, I need. So I'm on this stage of like, did it have protein in it? Like, does that have an extra protein? Because a lot of the stuff like health foods you'll eat, health foods. But then you'll look at the ingredients and it's like, oh yeah, they've whacked some like protein supplement or something into that food.
I have a thing called diverticulitis or something. Anyway, it's in your bowel. It's like just a little like hole basically. And so when people have issues with it,
it's called a bum hole.
Yeah, it's like a hole. And stuff comes out of
Uranus.
It. It's for real. No, it's in like the bowel tube and like. Essentially, it looks like what you'd imagine like a smoker's lung would look like, where a bit has like kind of died or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but basically, people who have trouble with this, I don't have trouble with it, but like if it's one of those things that like this, where you're like, oh, here's something that you need to keep your eye on rather than something that's giving you trouble at the moment. But basically, people can get things caught in those holes, and if it's working healthily enough, it'll like a seed or a nut, a bit of a nut or whatever can get caught in there, and then that causes you issues and pain and whatever. Normally, if it works fine, it just pushes it back out and you move on. But since I found out that information,
no whole grains,
just like I'm like all I'm thinking about is this things getting caught in these, and it's very unlikely. And I think I'd have to eat like a bag of nuts. You know what I mean? Like,
I heard the same thing from Jem's been like getting way into nutrition, and she said the same thing to me as well, because you're always like, oh, multigrain, whole wheat, like that's the best stuff. But then what Jem's been reading is it's actually can be really bad for you and can get stuck in like little pockets in your gut and like rip tears and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's so many. Like, who do you know who to trust?
I mean, also, who do you know who to trust?
Like,
because they change their mind all the time.
Yeah, eggs are bad for you. Eggs are good for you. Yolks are
great
bad
for you.
The whites are good for you.
Eating
like, don't eat anything.
Yeah.
Like, what are those guys who just only believe in air, like eating air or something?
No, I mean, but that's a bad one as well. But there is that, like, every couple of years there seems to be this idea that one thing or the other, or fast or eat every, like, I certainly remember a period of time where the secret was having like 8 small meals during the day, and then now it's like eat between like 3:15 and 3:19. That's it. But you can eat as much as you want. You can eat like an entire cake as long as you eat it in those 4 minutes. Everything's going to be fine. You'll live to 140.
I just want them to bring in like something so out of the blue. Imagine if they said, you know what, we got it wrong with tobacco.
Yeah.
Smoking.
Oh, yeah, smoking. Great.
Actually
really great for you again.
Really
We've
good for
got
you.
some new research.
I was just in Thailand, had a little bit of a holiday in the time we had off.
Thailand.
Had
you ever been to Thailand before?
Yes, but not since I was a backpacker. So this was a completely different experience, like going as a grown-up with a kid as opposed to being a little scumbag backpacker. I think the first time I went there was my first overseas trip on my own. With a mate and I, we just saved up over summer, worked summer jobs. And I remember we did the maximum, the 3 months that, you know, you could legally stay there.
Stay there for 3 months?
Off about $2,000
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, it was 1997.
And you were there for 3 months.
Yeah. So he
In Thailand.
Yeah. So we went over
Wow.
and we backpacked all over. And then we just sort of settled on Koh Samui
Mm-hmm.
on this little beach. And I remember, well, we were paying like, I think for our accommodation, it was like $13 a week or something. And it was literally just a shed with a hole, like no running
A
water.
glory hole?
Or, no, a toilet hole.
Okay. Well, I guess. Okay.
A bucket. There's a bucket with
Yeah.
a little smaller bucket next to it
Yeah.
that you'd wash your
And
dirty
some-
business down.
And so a piece of cardboard.
Piece
from
of
a
cardboard,
old
in
makeup
case you needed a
container.
sample.
Yeah.
But I remember sort of staying there. It was actually quite funny. We stayed there, and this was, email existed, but it was pre anything else really. No.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just writing postcards to family and stuff. And then it got to a point where we just ran out of money. We had traveler's checks. Remember those?
I do.
And we ran out of traveler's checks.
Do they still exist, do you reckon? Is there
I'm
still
sure
a
they
reason
would.
to have...
Bank
There'd be
checks
some
still
people who are
exist.
still holding on to traveler's
Yeah.
checks as a...
What is a legacy?
I mean, just because, like, as you
Currency.
said, like in the same way as there's people who've used checks all their life, and there'll continue to be checks until those people
It would be so inconvenient now in the era of like ATMs everywhere to take like a traveler's check to a bank and get a handful of cash. Like, it's just, why would you need to do it? Just get a credit card.
I mean, even like I never mastered checks anyway. Like, as in,
Yeah,
like,
I
I
think
knew
I
how to
had a
write one,
checkbook.
but I never really knew how to balance my checkbook or any. I never quite. And then that kind of technology, luckily.
What, I don't even know what you're saying right now. What does that mean?
I mean,
balance a check.
well, I don't know either.
Don't you
didn't
just
re-
write a check and it comes out of your account?
Well, there was you were meant to balance your. I don't know, Charlie. This is my point. And I was in a crossover period where, like, I was always like, I'm going to have to learn how to do this properly at some stage because I'm just writing checks and not balancing
You're
my
writing checks that your
checkbook.
body couldn't cash. Is that what was going on? You were becoming a kickboxer or something?
But then it just obviously, modern technology overtook the need to
Yeah.
have to do that anymore.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I was thinking about, because Iona was with us on this trip, and I was like, oh, she's going to get to a point where she's going to want to, go explore the world and
Yeah.
stuff. And like, it's so much, it feels safer in so many ways. Like, you can stay in touch at any point. And
Sure.
But I literally just jumped on a plane to Southeast Asia, and my mum was like, all right, well, I guess I'll hear from you in 3 months.
Yeah.
And sent one postcard, and that was it. I don't even recall like phoning her.
I know. Can you imagine if Iona says to you, oh, yeah, I'm going overseas for 3 months.
Yeah.
And part of it is I'm not going to be in touch.
Yeah, you'll get one scrawled like postcard from me
That's
to let
it.
you know that I'm okay,
Yeah.
and then you'll just have to assume that everything was all right.
Mm.
But we got to the point where we ran out of money, and so me and my mate James were like, oh, we've got to get back to Bangkok because our flight was leaving in a few days, but we had like 3 days to try and survive Bangkok on no money, and because we'd gone to a Jesuit school, we knew there was a what do you call it? Like where they train priests. It's like a seminary.
A dojo?
No, a seminary in Bangkok, a Jesuit seminary. And we're like, well, we're like part of the brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
Like, we went to a Jesuit school, and so we contacted them, and coincidentally, a priest that I knew from back in Melbourne was at the seminary, and they're like,
Had
oh,
fled to Thailand for some reason.
I don't know why, of all the places. So he was like, yeah, come by and have dinner. And so in our minds, we're like, oh, this is great. We'll go to the seminary.
Yeah.
It's like very Christian to kind of welcome in the poor, you're starving. They'll give us
Come on in.
accommodation. They'll feed us.
Welcome, my brother.
And so we turned up with
The prodigal son has returned.
yeah, we turned up with all our stuff, like so sure that we were going to get like, the best treatment. And he was like, no, we don't have any accommodation for you. Like, the rooms are full. Like, we've got students here. And so we were like, but Jesus and all that.
Yeah. What about Jesus, though?
And he was like, sorry, kids, you're on your own. So we then had to work out, I think we had something like maybe $100 between us,
Okay.
which is not bad, but we still had to pay for accommodation and food.
Yeah.
And so we went to Pat Pong Road, which is like the red light district.
Okay.
And we found like the cheapest,
And made some money. Made some more money.
found the cheapest hotel we could find. Like,
Yeah.
it was right above like the markets.
Is that where the cheapest hotels are? Because I
I
would have
mean,
thought...
it's where people go to disappear. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Or be disappeared.
yeah. You don't need like a passport or a license to get a
Yeah.
room. You can just
No.
go in there.
Yeah.
And I remember we were we were sleeping in like one single bed that was had blood stains on it. I don't know what had gone down on this bed, but it wasn't good. And I remember the first like night just hearing like screaming and fighting, and could have been gunshots. Maybe it was a car backfiring. It felt like gunshots though. And just thinking, we're just going to stay in this hotel room for the next 3 days. We're not going to leave until our plane departs. So this was not that trip. This was let's have a nice luxury holiday where...
I didn't feel like you should recreate that experience for your family.
Part of me did have this kind of guilt. Like, it felt very White Lotus. Like, we turned up at a really nice
resort.
Nice resort, and... You know, you'd sort of have this guilt because you're like, oh God, like, you know, we exploiting the locals because, you know, they've built this gigantic kind of on this beautiful island. But, you know, at the same time, people need jobs. And so it was this kind of wrestle, and it was a great holiday. It was a great time. But I did find that I was having this guilt about like, should I be exploring more? Should I be, you know, seeing the sights, or because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to read my book.
Ignore their culture and nature and environment, and stay in a hotel that could have been anywhere but was on a beautiful beach and much more affordable than other places.
Exactly. That was 100% what I wanted to do. But it was funny. So weed has been legalized in Thailand, has been legal since COVID, right?
But tick, 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 right? Isn't there like a conservative government now?
Well, this is what I was going to say.
I've got no interest in going to Thailand, but the small amount of interest that was sparked in my mind of going to Thailand was also coincidentally when they had legalized weed, and has been since extinguished again.
Everywhere too. Like there are dispensaries like every 2 feet. And like, it's funny too, because I was saying to Jem, like, you go to LA or Toronto or anywhere where it's legal, and the dispensaries, like, they're all quite, you know, I guess in order to win over the kind of more conservative members of society, they've got to be ultra respectable and ultra, like an Apple store. Yeah. Like, you know, we are going to be cleaner and beyond reproach in every way. Whereas in Thailand, it's like, man, you want to get fucked up? Come to my place. Yeah. And they've all got names like, get high, man. And like, good stuff. And, you know, green, baby. Like, it's just, there's no classing it up. It's like, we know what you want, you scumbag. So because I went into a few of the places and I was asking them, like, is this going to be an issue when they crack down? And they're like, good luck. There are so many. They'll probably crack down on a bunch, but they are literally everywhere. Like, even one of the islands we went to, which was, apart from a hotel, there was very little development. Yeah. But I went for a ride around on a scooter, and they had a dispensary. So they seem to feel like it'll be a thing of, it'll go to medical. Yeah. And then that'll be pretty easy to work your way around. Like, you'll get some kind of...
I know, but I'm just beyond wanting to work my way around things.
Yeah, you just want it to be legal, right?
I just want it to be legal.
And everyone was so happy. Right. Like, when it was legal, and there was no trouble, and it's not like alcohol, where it makes people super aggressive. But so what happened though? Because I was reading the paper to find out, like, because at first, having been in Thailand back when, you know, you go to jail for 10 years for it, you feel a bit like, is this a trap? Like, am I going to get sprung? Yes. And so I read everything to make sure you could travel with it. It's all fine. It's all legal. But then I read this article in the paper, and it was this article about how the Conservative government, they're passing a bill which is going to make it illegal apart from medicinal purposes. And apparently the key motivating event that make it illegal was that Coldplay played a concert in Bangkok.
The band Coldplay.
The band Coldplay played a gig in Bangkok, and large sections of the audience were complaining about the smell of weed wafting across the audience. And so they received enough complaints that the Conservative government were like, okay, we're going to shut this shit down. Weed is not for fun. It's only for medicinal purposes.
Man, but here's the thing. As someone who uses it for medicinal purposes, I can also tell you, it is also fun. Like, I mean, those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive to each other. And I miss the days of, because you can't, I mean, look, and it's good that you can't smoke indoors. Of course it is. Like, but when I first started out in entertainment, people would smoke indoors. People would smoke on stage.
On
planes.
Know, like,
on planes, yeah. I flew to Canada once.
First time I went to Thailand, there was people smoking on the plane.
Yeah, people smoking. So, like, it was just a different time. It was a different environment. And, like, I remember going to see Cypress Hill at the Enmore, and somebody, like, passing around, you know, a joint in the mosh pit of that. And I was just like, this is better.
Yeah.
Like, this is more fun because of this. And then some squares who've gone along to their Coldplay gig.
Yeah.
No, I understand. It is. I think that it can be an unpleasant smell for people who, like, alcohol, for whatever its sins, often, unless someone has excessively used it, you don't need to smell it on them and be triggered by it in that way. But like, weed smoke smells like weed smoke.
But guess what? Now you can get oil which is odor free. So if that's the big issue,
So I think that should be that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Because clearly
It's
in this
smoke-free
situation, I don't think the people were complaining at that they weren't into it enough because they were too chilled out, or like, they were playing yellow, they were too mellow on yellow, like it was the smell, clearly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So there just should be a rule saying, hey, only edibles and oils only for public events.
Yeah.
No, no smells. Like in the same way as like no vapes, no smells.
I just don't know that once the genie's out of the bottle, and because, the fear is like, it's always that slippery slope argument, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's a gateway drug and blah, blah, blah. But it's been legal for, I think, at least 12 months. And there hasn't been a significant uptake in like any crime or deaths or what. I mean, look, the road rules over there are, advise random at best. Like, I don't think it's really affecting. I don't think like whether or not someone's high is going to affect whether or not there's going to be an accident over there, because like people drive like maniacs anyway. But
I'm not sure how solid that logic is. You're like, people drive pretty weirdly here anyway. So I guess if they're high, it probably doesn't make a difference.
Well,
I would argue, perhaps, as an outsider who's never been there, so not an informed opinion, but just based on the theory of if someone is already doing something badly and you add weed to that situation, that it keeps it at an even level or doesn't make. I mean, I think it still would probably make it worse, right?
I guess so. Well, I don't know. I mean, I
think people need to be careful around. Like, I mean, at the moment, the weed like smoking laws in Australia are ridiculous. Like, because it can stay in your system for ages. You can not be impaired and test positive, all these sort of things.
Well, they don't test for impairment; they just test for the presence, right?
So there's got to be a midway point where, like, you can go, okay, this person is, because people shouldn't drive when they're impaired by weed or anything else. I think, like, as a society, we can agree that that's a good blanket position for us to have. Whatever it is that you're impaired by, your phone or weed or alcohol or whatever, we need to go, we have some rules around that you can't do that because it's bad that you're impaired when you're driving.
Yeah.
But
or walk into Parliament House, for instance.
But there shouldn't be a moral judgment really in what it is that's impairing you, right?
I guess that's what I was saying is like, because that argument of the slippery slope, whatever, is based around some pretty old stereotypes around weed, and kind of the scare campaigns of the 50s and stuff. And I think that there is now like a here we are speaking for the youth again.
Nice, good. Yeah.
But the way like the generational attitudes have changed, like I'd say that when they do polling and stuff, like weed is, most people consider it should be legalized. Like they don't see it as any different to alcohol. Like obviously there's, different levels of drugs and stuff, and there's some that are more harmful. But weed is not one of those drugs, that class A ones that needs to be restricted.
No, I mean, I was joking about this with somebody the other day. It may end up in my stand-up show. But anyway, I'm going to tell you just what I said, which is that I realize, because this is just true, that I'm technically at the moment sober because I've stopped drinking alcohol and I haven't taken any other sort of recreational drug of any kind. And because my weed use has been reclassified to medicinal.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm technically, I take a medicine, right? But otherwise I am living a sober life. I'm like, I like this. Like,
I guess that is true. Like but if just say the medication was like, I don't know, some kind of painkiller, like a prescribed painkiller, and you didn't drink, you didn't smoke weed, didn't take anything else. If someone asks you, are you sober?
Yeah.
Do you say yes?
I mean,
you would, wouldn't you?
If you're just popping one oxy a day.
I mean, but it's funny. It's like this double standard, isn't it? Where it's like, weed's not a drug. What is?
No. Yeah,
I like coffee's a drug. They're all drugs.
Oh yeah. As I sit here having my fourth coffee of the day, I go, I'm sober. I'm not addicted to any drugs. I don't know what you're talking about.
There is that. Have you ever read anything by? I think his name's Dr. Carl Hart. He's a
Dr. Carl Kruszelnicki.
not Dr. Carl
Kruszelnicki.
Kruszelnicki. No, Dr. Carl Hart. He's a expert in addiction. He's written a bunch of books, but he has these very kind of
Read the first one. Could not stop reading them. Had to read all of them.
progressive views on. Like, he thinks that all drugs should be legal, and his argument is that
Man. His argument, Dr. Carl.
Dr. Carl,
not the Dr. Carl.
Carl with a C.
Not Dr. Carl of the colourful shirts and science programming.
American,
not Dr. Carl of Neighbours. Fame.
The third Dr. Carl.
The third Dr. Carl.
His argument is that everyone's physiology is completely different, and drugs that may affect you in a negative way may be very helpful to someone else. And he's written a couple of books. I've read one of them where he sort of traveled around the world and spent time with, like, he was saying, for instance, like it boggles some people's mind that someone could take heroin, for instance.
Of course.
But for some people, like, a little bit of opiates actually enables them to do whatever the job is. Or amphetamines can help, people who have like focus, pilots or whatever, do their jobs. And he was saying, if in a mature society, what we'd be doing is kind of assessing each person on a medical point of view and saying, well, these are bad for you and you need to, these should be like your controlled substances, but we shouldn't be classifying them all as one thing. And he said, if you're someone who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't take drugs, but you drink coffee, but you look down your nose at someone who does drugs, well, guess what? You have an addiction, because caffeine is a drug, and it affects you. It just affects you in a way that makes you happy and brings you pleasure.
And there's a social acceptability.
And a social acceptability.
Yeah, you can pop into every third place and get a coffee in the way that you can't pop into every third place
and get a bag of Coke.
Yeah.
Well, he was saying, like, I think the last interview I heard him do, he said that he and his wife, that he's been married for a long time, they went to Peru or somewhere in South America to get the purest cocaine they could find, with like this little brick of like super pure cocaine. And he said they were having this like couples week where he said they'd just do like a little bit of really strong coke and they would like talk and they'd have this amazing sex. And he said it was just, they used it like a tool for their relationship. And he said
that sounds horrible. That sounds like one of the worst.
We should start a business together. Just hit me up. We'll start a business together. It'll be great.
It'll be great.
We'll be
really good.
Japanese fashion, and we'll combine it with homewares.
You know what?
We'll call it Muji.
We will go and see 24-hour DJ party in Las Vegas. I'll buy tickets online right now.
But he was sort of describing it as like, because the cocaine he got was so pure. He said it didn't have the edgy, kind of greedy effects that people associate with cocaine. He said it was like, it's a very different high. And he's like, if we legalize drugs
artisanal,
and we had a purity like standards and practices that we have for alcohol, where you can't just like mix something in a bathtub, bikey speed or whatever, then you would probably find that you have like people would have different reactions to the different drugs.
It's like where is this podcast gone? This has been quite the adventure.
I don't even know what we're talking about, to be honest. We started off talking about fashion, and now we're talking about legalizing all drugs.
When there was two conversations we stopped off air before we started recording because we were like, oh, this is one for the podcast. We better have this conversation. And then we've not talked about either of those things. We've gone all over the place. Oh my God. Okay. So what I was thinking about before the podcast was, how do you think we would go if we've done 500, let's say we do 1,000 of these. Do you think we could get to the point, or how accurately could we get to the point where if I was in a soundproof booth, so right, so but we're sitting like we're sitting right now, but I'm like in something like the Get Smart Cone of Silence,
like one of those dating game shows or something.
Yeah, like and okay, maybe I can see you, maybe I can't see it.
Yeah,
probably doesn't really matter. The point is, I cannot hear you.
Yeah,
all I know is that you can. Well, can you hear me? or can I hear you? What's more interesting here? If one person can hear the other person, or we can't hear each other? I think we can't hear each other. Like, for the purposes of this thought experiment, you and I cannot hear each other. Charlie's just spilled
Got a drinking problem.
water on himself distractingly. He's going to rip off his shirt in a minute, get some views on the video. So, is that a Muji shirt?
That's a Muji shirt, not
Like
waterproof, water resistant. Clearly.
Now we're going to see
Yeah.
how a Muji shirt. This is like a stress test
Yeah, that's right.
of the Muji products.
Well, I do have a Muji hoodie that apparently is water resistant. Like
Oh, really?
yeah, it's easy to wash, water resistant. Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got it in my backpack.
When
I'll
you
show
say
you.
water resistant,
I'll wear it on the next step. How
what
about
does
that?
water resistant mean? Do you think?
It
Doesn't mean
water
waterproof,
doesn't
does it?
absorb. It beads on the
Yeah.
surface, so you can just brush it off.
Because I have a raincoat that is water resistant, but if you get enough rain,
It just goes
things
through.
inside it get wet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Water resistant. I mean, what would be a more accurate term?
yeah. I mean, I've
water.
got it'll get in the way between you and water.
Yeah,
But
it's a barrier
Yeah,
between you and water.
Water barrier,
Thin barrier.
a thin water barrier.
Slows water down. It doesn't stop it, slows it down. Water inhibitor.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yes. Can you grab me a water inhibitor? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
A rain inhibitor. Yeah, that's good. A moisture inhibitor. Okay. So, okay. So we're both we can't hear what each other are saying, but we can see maybe each other. Yeah, that's good. I like this. How accurate do you think we could be in doing a podcast without being able to hear each other? If we were given the point, if we
Hang
could
on,
see
so
each
we're
other.
both in like perspex boxes.
Or
across
there's
from
just a
each other.
screen maybe
Okay,
in
all right.
between us.
We
but
can see each other.
We
but
can
we
see
can't
each other,
hear
but
each
we
other.
can't hear each other. So we know when the other person's
there's no
finished
fucking way.
talking.
There's no way. Well, we could try it now. I could just walk out there. Do you want me? Should I walk out?
Well, I mean, I got to be able to see you.
You'll be able to see me out there. I'll stand behind Amy. I'll walk out. And so, who's starting the conversation?
Okay. Well, when you get out there,
Yeah.
you can start the conversation,
Yeah.
and then I'll pick it up when you stop
Okay. All right.
talking.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's see if this works. I can mostly see a reflection of me, which is going to be honest, freak me out a little bit. But anyway, here we go.
Can you hear me? You can hear me now? Can you hear me? No. Can you not hear me?
Should be able to.
Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Well done. All right, turn the mic off.
Uh-huh. No, I agree with that. I couldn't agree more. I've got to be honest with you. I think that what you're saying is very sensible, and I guess it's probably going to be your turn to continue. Oh,
Did he say any? Did he respond correctly?
He was in the affirmative.
Oh, okay. Of what? Did
Very, very generic.
Okay,
Just
did-
an affirmative
All
statement.
I did agree though. What was I agreeing to? I was agreeing to whatever was being said, but I can't.
said I watched the Saints play their match sim, and I was very bullish about their chances this season.
You know what? I said I agree with that. I think so. I was getting the right vibe.
Okay. Well, because I was smiling, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'd started crying or something like that, would you have said, I'm sorry to hear that or something?
I mean, would you have actually been crying, do you think?
I could fake it. I'm an actor.
I was going to say,
Like, imagine if I just started crying like Amy's consoling me. Like, you're like, I don't know what's going on. Well, I think he's quitting the show.
great if you did it like that whatever that cry was just then. It'd be so good if you were like, this is my cry. As in, I'm sure if you're an actor, you might cry in character, but maybe you have a cry you go to if if you need to cry. This is kind of how I the little actions that I would give to be like a cry.
Go.
It'd be so no, but
Can you
I'm
cry for me? Oh, that's not crying. That's like feeling something.
What?
Cry. Like crying's like, like.
What you're doing is not crying. That's not crying.
Is that not crying?
No, I thought you were doing that for fun. That's not how you cry. That is not how you cry.
Hang on, let me think. How do I cry?
No, stop it. This is not.
That's crying.
No, it isn't. What are you doing?
How do you cry?
Like, I'm crying now from watching you do this. I thought you were doing a bit. Do you honestly think that's how you cry? Are you? Stop it. That is not.
That's how I cry. I'm honestly
It
trying to
is
sum
not.
up. Like if you were a director and
Do
you're
it
like
seriously.
Charlie.
No, seriously. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a big time director. Who have you always wanted to work with?
Steven Spielberg. You're Steven
So,
Spielberg.
Charlie, it's me, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Look, we really want you for this
What
part.
was going on with Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull? What happened? What were you thinking?
Oh, look, to be honest, I just let him use my name a bit. I didn't have a lot to do with it.
You just wanted to get payday, right?
Payday, you got to cash in at some stage.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Steven Spielberg has to cash in. That's the guy who invented blockbuster movies has to cash in. At
Well,
some
I didn't get
stage.
as much of the back end as I needed,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm also opening Spielbergers. I got the idea from the Wahlbergs, but I thought to combine this game.
less problematic burger
Yeah,
chain.
that's right. There's the egg and the tomato, the ET burger. We do that one. No, love your stuff.
Yep, thank you.
Been following you for years, and I just wanted to offer you this part. There's only one thing. It is obviously the biggest scene in the whole movie it is very emotional, and it does depend on you having a cry
Mm-hmm.
that will bring home like the heart of the story, the importance of the story. Like this is
Okay.
this is the Oscar moment.
Okay.
You know, this is the
Yeah. Can you give me a bit of like? So what's the backstory
I
of the
can't.
character? Oh, okay.
I can't tell you.
You want me to go to a very emotional place?
You've got to go there.
Okay.
And I can't tell you what the project is at the moment, but you're perfect for it.
Okay.
And
Steve. Can
All
I
I will
call you
say-
Steve?
I prefer it if at the moment you didn't. Call me
Mr. Spielberg.
Mr. Spielberg would be fine for now, or Stephen.
Okay, Stephen. Look, ordinarily,
Yeah.
I would want some time to prepare for something like this, but I understand this is a great opportunity,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do my best.
Thank you.
It's a bit difficult without knowing the circumstances that I'm in, because obviously there's different levels of sadness. You know, is it grief? Is it related to a tragic event? Is it shock? So
I
you're happy
think
for me to just find my own way through
The
it?
truth of it is that it's all those three things. And it's
Okay.
important that you bring all those three things to the table.
And do you want me to build to the tears, or do you want me to just hit the
I
ground?
want you to find it where you find it.
Okay. All right.
I can't direct this. This
Okay.
just needs to be one of those things that you're able to do.
And no dialogue. Just you want me to just feel it and cry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Maybe a no. Maybe a no.
Okay.
You could like
Okay.
like an anguished no
No.
of some kind would be
All right.
yeah,
Okay. In my own time.
in your own time.
You're not going to say just have fun with it, like most directors.
Oh, do they? Is that
That's the worst bit. Of,
Well-
the worst bit of direction you can ever get is just have fun with it.
also in this circumstance?
Don't.
Completely inappropriate.
just
One
have-
thing I would say is don't have fun with
Just
it.
have some misery with
If
it.
I have one note for you,
Okay.
don't have fun with it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, considering I had no context for that, Mr. Spielberg, I think that's a pretty darn good job.
Well, I just don't think it's going to get the job done on Schindler's List too.
The shindling. Schindler's List 2, the electric Shindaloo.
Schindler's second list. We found another list.
It's heaps funnier. Don't worry, this one's a comedy. This is a good list. It's a list of awesome things.
Schindler's other list. It's just,
It's a list of the best theme parks in the world. It's a fun list.
just love making lists. That's the thing. Like, all these real serious lists gets but there's actually a real fun side to his list that has been overlooked throughout history.
Let's get to some mail, Will. We'd like
okay,
to finish off with a
sure.
bit of correspondence with our listeners. If you want to get in touch with us, you
my
can.
God.
Go to everyonerelax.co. There's a little contact form there. This is actually concerns you, Amy. This came in from Rani. Now, Rani has suggested something.
Yeah.
Now, we were saying we want to, look, we have a tradition of calling all our producers Mike because they've all been Mikes.
Yeah.
And then Amy comes along.
Can I just, before we get to
Yeah.
like this moment, because I discovered something about everyone relaxes the world, right? We always think about TOFOP as the producers being mics. We've got this long history of producers who are mics.
Yeah, on TOFOP.
But during a period of time when I was working at Triple M, there was another Michael that came
my
into the
God.
mix, Michael James, who was producing Velocity. And I only, not all the episodes, but he was because we were working together on the radio, he would often, because I was listening for my show to an old episode that Howie did with me, and he was there in the room and we were referring to him, and I was like, oh my God, we've just found ourselves an extra Michael.
We're an extra Mike. Pass the mic, as the
Yes.
Beastie Boys might
I mean,
say.
amazing.
So Rani has said, with Amy, you
Yeah.
guys have missed a golden opportunity to call your new producer a Mick.
A Mick.
Now, I don't know why Rani's gone to a
Mick.
Mick, but a Mike.
A Mike.
A Mike.
A
'Cause
Mike.
she's
A
a Mike, Amy, Mike, a Mike.
I'm on the
A
mic.
Mike.
You're on the
Amy
mic?
Mike.
A Mike.
A Mike.
I like a Mike.
Do you?
A Mike.
How do you feel about it?
You're
Amy?
because you are you. She is a Mike, but she's a Mike.
Yeah.
A Mike.
Oh no, I get it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
making
no,
sure.
I-
You don't want me to cry
If you
again, do
think-
you?
if you think the problem is that I don't understand the concept, then we're on different pages. How do you feel about it, Amy?
Well, if it helps at all, it's a funny thing because Amy is also not my real name. Amy is a
Oh.
nickname that I've had for my whole life.
Is that right?
Is
If
And
you
you're-
if you reveal that
you're
your name is actually
I'm-
Mike,
That'd be the best. It'd be amazing. It'd be the longest con of all time.
No, my parents just decided, even though they called me Amelia, they were just like, I'll just call her Amy. And for as long as I can remember, I've been called Amy.
like Dean
Alright.
Morgan is called Jeffrey.
Yes. All right.
But no, look, honestly, Amy, Mike, whatever, as long as I know when to
I'm
hit
not
the on
into it.
button. You're
You
not
don't
into
like
it?
a Mike? A Mike.
Too much
It just rolls
effort?
off the tongue. I
Does
thought.
it?
Well, we've had Michael,
Yeah.
podcast Mike,
Yeah.
Mike the Third, a Mike,
Hey, Mike.
a Mike, because it's Amy, a Mike.
I know. Again, you think
I'm going
the
to give you.
problem
I'm
is
going to
that
give you a
yeah,
break
okay, good.
to think about it.
Okay.
But I'm.
I mean, I'm not. Hey, I'm fine with whatever Amy's fine with.
Yeah, me too. I wouldn't put a name on you that you didn't want. I just
No.
thought that was a good solution because it differentiates a Mike from Mike the Third.
Yeah.
But
But
it
she
has
could be her
lived this-
own person. Do you have a nickname? Do you have an actual, in real life nickname that you're willing to share with us on the
I
Imagine
have another
imaginary
nickname.
Skull
radio
Crusher.
show?
the Destroyer.
Yeah, that's right.
No, people call me Amy's in high school, and then people call
Ames.
me by my last name a lot because there are
Uh-huh.
lots of Amy's around. So sometimes people will
Okay.
just call me Kimball.
Kimball,
Kimball, Dr. Richard Kimball.
Dr. Rich, the
Mm.
fugitive.
Exactly.
What if our
Wow.
producer was the
Oh,
fugitive?
man.
The
Would you be willing for social content to
Jump off a
track down a
waterfall.
one?
yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's pretty good though. Kimball is a good name though, isn't it? Kimball.
Kimball.
I
I think it needs a snappier. I mean, not that Kimball's in a great name,
No,
but it
it's
needs a
a great name.
snappier. I just like. What about Fuji? Like the fugitive, Fuji's.
The Fugees.
The fugitive, Fuji, la la.
Yeah. Were you just in word association now?
yeah. Try.
Is that what's happening? Okay, well, I mean, yes, we'll have
We'll
a break.
workshop it. We're not there yet.
We've
Yeah, I mean,
got
this
time.
is just
We've
a
got
journey.
time.
Yeah.
I'm actually. I've got to say, I am stunned that you didn't go with a Mark. When I read that, I was.
I'm
Alright,
I'm
you
not
gotta let it percolate.
saying that you've had time to live with it. All
Okay.
I was worried about, okay, honestly, this is literally my only
I
worry.
may have even responded to that listener
and
saying,
said,
"Hey,
yes, we're
using
definitely
that."
doing this. 100%.
Will agrees with
Will
me.
would love it. Will, the one thing I know about Will, if I know Will, is he will immediately love this and not have any reservations about it at all. No, my only one was genuinely that I was like, are we trying? We've got like Amy's come in, she's her own person.
Mhm.
Are we trying to make her like, are we dressing her like, when Ned Flanders like had the country singer stay over and then she woke up in the middle of the night and
Dressed
he
her like
started,
Maud.
yeah, right? I was like, are we trying to,
I guess because it's been
you know,
organic with the other three
yes,
mics.
exactly. Are we trying to force
Okay.
like this?
Yeah. All right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Okay. Oh, let's leave it for now.
are we trying to make fetch happen, Charlie?
If a nickname happens organically,
yeah,
it'll stick. So we'll stick with Amy for now because that's not even your name. I mean,
no, A Mike.
we'll stick with Amy.
A Mike.
A Mike.
Oh, well, we can
We'll see what
start with
happens.
A Mike and see how we feel.
You might remember, Will,
Ah,
a little while ago, we had a doctor, Dr. Jem, write in
uh-huh.
with a story about treating a patient with a TOFOP.
Oh, yeah.
tattoo. Here's a
Okay.
little refresher
Yes.
in case for people don't remember. And confirmed that it was a TOFOP tattoo before going on to smirk at him and say, well, as you know, they've kept me laughing so I can keep you living.
I mean, good gear,
Great
good
stuff.
material
Really
to
good.
someone who you would think
Loves TOFOP. Well,
loves TOFOP. They've got a TOFOP tattoo.
I thought this unexpected inside joke would definitely land, but this guy was either not as big a TOFOP fan as his tattoo might suggest, or, more realistically, was sick with COVID, as it turns out, and was now probably questioning the legitimacy of his doctor knowing that he spent his time listening to the nonsensical comedy conversation between two old mates rather than dedicating his time towards study. Okay, so that was the setup, and we wondered who was this mysterious patient. Well, we've heard.
We've heard from the patient.
Yes, Nathan.
Oh, Nathan.
I am the tattooed COVID survivor.
Nathan.
Everybody relax. I love now that the listeners.
Yes, I mean, I endorse
branding
that,
is
by the way.
working.
Nathan, this is excellent stuff.
Pretty sure I'm the tattooed COVID survivor mentioned in the recent Fiddle Toad app with the Foz drawn cartoon heads inked on my leg. Tattooed back in about 2017, so I'm pretty sure I qualify for being a true teabagger, Charlie, because I did question maybe this person wasn't as big a fan because they didn't immediately respond to the doctor's joke. In typical TOFOP form, Chucky overthinks wild, crazy, awesome ideas until Will slowly shuffles in with some accurate possible possibilities, which is such a perfect description of this show. Me like veering off wildly into some like fantasy and then you just very calmly bringing everything back to a level pegging. Yes, CC, I was more worried about trying to actually breathe and slow down my accelerated heart rate as I lay half naked in the ED awaiting multiple test results. The first two COVID tests actually came back negative. However, finding out not only one doctor, but two doctors that were treating me that freezing cold morning were also fellow teabaggers.
Yes.
So Dr. Jem wasn't the only one. That's I mean,
We are I know it was
we
a
bring it
joke,
up every
but we are
time.
the number one medical
Medical
podcast
podcast.
by medical professionals.
it filled me with relief knowing I was in good hands. Well, that was really what I wanted to like get across was that if you're a teabagger and you for some reason have to go to hospital, just know that we're looking after you. We've kept them laughing.
Mate, this is how you start an Illuminati.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like this is everyone gets
It's
a little
Fight Club.
TOFOP. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's totally.
Yes, for the medical system.
Yeah. And by the way, we did sort of speculate that maybe we could come up with some TOFOP medical bracelets. I've looked into it.
Yeah.
It's actually quite cheap. We can mass produce some TOFOP medical bracelets. Like if there is demand for it.
Yeah.
But we can get them made. But I was talking to Jem about it and she's like, but is that going to be an issue if someone actually gets into a
has
real
a medical
accident?
problem.
And
they're
they
like,
look at
what
the
does this
bracelet
mean?
and it says, we keep you laughing, so they keep you living.
I mean,
Like, so I don't know.
gives them a nice little moment. Tell us if you're a medical professional, maybe weigh in on this. You're
Yeah.
probably the people that we should. In that moment, would you be like, check their bracelet,
Yeah.
like see what their allergies are, and then you're like, oh, they listen to TOFOP.
Well, I guess though. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, are we being unethical in...
Is it disrespectful?
Yeah. Because
Is it getting in the way? Are we causing problems?
Yeah, it's like, do we have TOFOP branded wheelchairs as a joke or something like that? Does people actually need these things?
Yeah, exactly. Or is that like a fun thing? Should I be putting out a range of wheelchairs as like a fun merchandising opportunity? Exactly, yeah.
Okay, 2 doctors were fellow teabaggers. It filled me with relief. Or if I had died, it could have made for good mailbag content at least. My apologies for not writing in sooner, but I couldn't find a fax machine. I mean, Nathan's really showing
Nathan,
his
you don't
deep
need
cut.
to prove.
Yeah.
You don't need to prove anything, despite Charlie's wild accusations that he must have made at the time.
I also had a new lease on life and I wanted to go out and enjoy it. So I left hospital and I spent the last 14 months driving in a van around Australia with my fiance.
Nice.
I know, that's really good. Also, why am I hearing the sound of Mr. CXC's voice in my head as I write this, as he's getting all flustered and stumbling over the words and complaining and yelling at clouds and whose bin is whose? Yes, Chuckles, you are old. Anyway, love the work, guys. Keep it up. Well, Nathan, I'm glad you're feeling better. And that sounds like a great way to kind of bounce back from a near-death experience. Jump in a van with your fiance and drive around Australia for like
Spread
14
that
months.
COVID from state to state.
That's right. Okay. How long have we done? That seems like an episode, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. Cool. We'll wrap it up there. Will, what have you got going on?
I'm on tour.
Yeah.
At the point people are hearing this, it's happening. At the point we're recording this, it hasn't quite happened yet. But at the point people are hearing this, I am on the road with my new show, Will Legitimate. As we are recording this, I'm about a week from it starting, and so it's all one idea. It hasn't been tried before I go to Adelaide, and now I'm really in that zone of just completely like
shitting yourself.
I'm like, have I made a massive mistake?
Just make sure you're catching with like sheets of cardboard. Trust me, you'll need it at some point.
So anyway, that is touring all over Australia and then all over the world. So comedy.com.au if you want to do that. And obviously check out all the other podcasts
Monday
that are
to
in this
Thursday,
feed.
baby.
Plus some bonus episodes. There was an episode of Confessions, Sam Peterson's podcast, who was a TOFOP with Friends guest, and there was a episode of his podcast that went in the feed. We drop in all sorts of bonus content in there as well. So just everyone subscribe to Everyone Relax and you'll find all our stuff there.
All right, that is TOFOP for this week. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
How long? Not long. Everyone relax.